From the start of Batman the Animated Series in 1992 to the end of Justice League Unlimited in 2006, the DC Animated Universe created what remains for many the definitive screen adaptation of the world of colourful heroes and villains, science, magic, and a millionaire playboy dressed in the Bat costume of DC Comics. Seriously, this show is what kickstarted my own love affair with comics, and I'd wager that's the same for dozens of others who grew up on these shows too. Of course, across that 14 years and hundreds of hours of superheroics, there are plenty of fascinating stories that went on behind the scenes. So, I'm Ewan from What Culture, and here are 10 mind-blowing facts you didn't know about the DC Animated Universe. Number 10. The DCAU is still going. Those who remember Superman and Batman teaming up to defeat Darkseid and Destroyer as the end of the DCAU may be surprised to know that the series is still alive and well. Both 2017's Batman and Harley Quinn and this year's Justice League vs. the Fatal Five come from DCAU creator/producer Bruce Timm, used many of the same voice actors, including Kevin Conroy's Batman, George Newbern's Superman, and Susan Eisenberg's Wonder Woman, the same art style and character models, and therefore may well be seen as continuing the stories of the DCAU. Sam Liu, the director of both films, along with several other non-DCAU DC properties, has suggested that the internet can discuss and make its own conclusions on whether to include these in the DCAU canon. And so far, the internet seems largely to come down on the side of yes, regardless of the lack of an official stance from DC themselves. Number 9. Kevin Conroy didn't want to play the hero. Although he's seen by many as the finest on-screen Batman as well as the glue that binds together the entire DCAU, back in the early 90s, Kevin Conroy had neither voice acting experience nor much interest in Batman, and so was not the obvious choice for the new series' lead. Predominantly a stage and soap actor, Conroy saw voice acting as mainly a way to supplement his income in between theatre jobs, and Batman was his first ever audition for an animated series. The producers were only aware of him at all because voice director Andrea Romano's roommate, a casting director, recommended him for the role. Conroy's only frame of reference for Batman, meanwhile, was the jolly old Adam West series, leaving Tim having to explain the darker edge take on the character that the show was seeking in terms of theatrical characters with whom Conroy was familiar, such as Hamlet. Even so, on reading the script that he was sent, Conroy was convinced that shady cop Harvey Bullock was the more interesting role than the title character. He even begged producers to let him audition for Commissioner Gordon instead before they talked him into the idea that being the lead might give him more to play with. Number 8. Tim Curry recorded multiple episodes as the Joker, and can still be heard in one of them. While Conroy may not have been a Bat fan before landing the DCAU's lead role, his on-screen nemesis Mark Hamill absolutely was, and lobbied hard for a part in the new animated series. The one that he was given, though, was not the Joker, but rather Goth Corp CEO Ferris Boyle, a one-off role as the catalyst for Mr. Freeze's poignant new backstory in the Emmy-winning episode Heart of Ice. Many people may know that Tim Curry was the first choice for the part. Coming off the back of the original miniseries version of it, and with an impressive voice acting resume, he was a far more obvious clown prince of crime than the erstwhile Luke Skywalker. Fewer people are aware, though, that not only did Curry record 3 whole episodes in the part, but that his sinister Joker laugh is still audible in one of them. It has been suggested that Curry was dropped because he was just too scary, but the reality was that he was just sick. Either way, the role had to be recast, and Hamill landed the part instead. Nevertheless, in Be a Clown, one of the early Joker episodes, now re-recorded with Hamill doing the voice, the recording of Curry's laugh was reused for a creepy robot clown. So, if you want a sense of how his Joker would have sounded, just look out for that. Number 7. The producers didn't decide which Flash they were using until the end of Justice League Season 2. The Flash first appeared in the DCAU during Superman the Animated Series episode Speed Demon, in which the fastest man alive shows up in Metropolis for a race. The character there, though, was just the Flash, and remained masked and without a secret identity. In fact, that state of affairs continued once the character returned as one of the leads on Justice League. He went through almost the entire run of the show without his real identity ever being revealed. It wasn't until the finale Starcross that the audiences learned who the Flash actually was, when Bruce Wayne unmasks him in front of everyone else. There's a good reason for that, though. The producers hadn't actually decided on who it was beneath the mask until that point. Rumor has it that Tim and his team wanted classic Silver Age Flash Barry Allen in the role, while Warner Bros. And DC preferred the then-current incumbent speedster Wally West. The compromise was just not to ever unmask him, figuratively, but also most of the time literally. Finally, after 52 episodes, it was settled that it was Wally in the red suit. Not that that made too much difference to later episodes, but still. Number 6. The original Justice League was almost completely different. The 2001 Justice League series represented the climax of the DCAU, something that had been teased years earlier by the various cameos of DC heroes in the Superman series. But as with any version of the Justice League lineup, there was plenty of debate about which heroes should feature. Aside from the central trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, the rest of the team was never really set in stone. Superman the animated series had featured episode team-ups with The Flash, Aquaman, and Green Lantern, in the form of Kyle Rayner, who was then the main comics Lantern, so these were the obvious original choices. Early concept art also shows this lineup, albeit with the possibility that Tim and his team's preference for classic incarnations over incumbent heroes, meaning that the Green Lantern was now likely Hal Jordan rather than Rayner. This lineup, however, felt a little male and pale, so it was reconstituted with Rayner and Jordan replaced by Jon Stewart's Lantern to give the League a hero of color, and Aquaman substituted for Hawkgirl to add an extra female presence. However, DC and the Kids WB network wanted a more kid-friendly presence. Tim's original sizzle reel to get executives to commit to the pilot, therefore, shows the 6 heroes who would eventually become the DCAU Justice League fighting alongside teen stars Robin, Impulse, and a version of Steel's Natasha Irons reimagined as a female cyborg. Number 5. Harley Quinn wasn't the first DCAU character to transfer into the comics. From Gotham cop Renee Montoya to teen future Batman Terry McGinnis, Lex Luthor's assistant Mercy Graves, and electricity-powered supervillain Livewire, the original characters created for the DCAU have been a gift to the continuity of DC Comics. None more so than easily the most popular and successful DCAU creation, Harley Quinn. Since debuting as a one-shot character in Batman the Animated Series, the Joker's squeaky-voiced female counterpart has become a fixture in not just the DCAU, but also the comics, and now is one of the main figureheads of DC's live-action movies. Given that she's been around since 1992, and that she was an almost instant hit with fans, you'd think that Harley would have been the first DCAU character to cross onto the pages of the comics. In actual fact, she didn't make it to the pages of the regular DC Comics universe until Batman Harley Quinn in 1999, years after Renee Montoya beat it to the punch. Another example is Lyle Bolton, aka Lockup, who was created for the eponymous Batman Animated Series episode in November 1994. He also appeared in 1996's Detective Comics number 697, also before Harley Quinn. Number 4, we could have gotten a DCAU Teen Titans series and an Arkham movie. When first looking for a way to follow up the success of Batman the Animated Series in the mid-90s, most of Warner Bros.' ideas focused not on different DC heroes, but rather spin-offs of the Batman characters. Tim was in the early stages of development on a Catwoman the Animated Series after the popularity of Michelle Pfeiffer's take on the character, but it went nowhere. This was followed by the idea of spinning Robin off into a Teen Titans series. Concept art since revealed by artist Tony DeHader shows that the lineup would have paired Robin with Kid Flash, Speedy, Aqualad, and Wonder Girl. Even closer to coming to fruition was the 2000 movie Batman Arkham. The planned follow-up to the Mr. Freeze movie Sub-Zero, Arkham had Sub-Zero writer/director Boyd Kirkland attached to return alongside the regular voice cast and the addition of Angie Harmon as Bruce's new love interest. Batman Arkham was eventually dropped, however, in favor of a Batman Beyond movie which was to become Return of the Joker, with Harmon recast as Commissioner Barbara Gordon. Number 3, the DCAU was continually screwed over by failed live-action projects. Despite its status as a critical darling and fan favorite, the DCAU was never the priority focus for DC or Warner Bros., meaning that it often had to work around whatever live-action projects were in production at the time. WB insisted, for example, that the Batman the Animated Series Penguin resemble the one in Tim Burton's Batman Returns, but wouldn't release any images of the character, meaning that Tim had to work from sketches that he made of Danny DeVito on set. A second effort at a DCAU Catwoman solo project, this time a movie following on from Mystery of the Batwoman, was initially backed because it would capture fans of the live-action Halle Berry movie. When that movie bombed, and let's face it, it bombed hard, the plug was pulled completely on the animated movie. Before that, Batman and Robin actually pushed back the release of the DCAU's own Mr. Freeze movie Batman and Robin Sub-Zero. Meanwhile, Justice League Unlimited was not as unlimited as its title might suggest when it came to which DC characters it was allowed to use. Aquaman, for example, never appeared after the first season because a live-action Aquaman series was in development from the creators of Smallville. The show wasn't picked up and its pilot released as an underwhelming standalone movie in 2006, and hey, he didn't have the hook hand either, which isn't worth your time. In fact, by the time of JLU, the sheer number of other DC Batman projects resulted in a so-called Bat embargo, where no other Batman supporting characters could appear on the show, even ones like Harley Quinn that the DCAU itself had invented. Number 2, it included an R-rated series full of violence and profanity. The DCAU frequently pushed the boundaries of what they could get away with on what was still ostensibly a set of kids' TV shows. Roxy Rocket was pretty much wall-to-wall innuendo after all, and Return of the Joker famously released with a censored version for networks in the States. There was, however, briefly a DCAU series that pushed things much further. Much further. In 2000, Lobo the web series brought foul language, sexual content, and over-the-top violence to the DCAU for the first and last time. In the 1990s, DC Comics' space biker intergalactic bounty hunter had become something of a fan favorite when transformed from a tough guy villain into a loudmouth, obnoxious, ultra-violent anti-hero. So of course, DC wanted him brought into the animated universe, making his first appearance early in Superman the Animated Series in the 1996 two-parter, The Main Man. There were bigger plans beyond that, however, as DC considered a full spin-off for the character. Ultimately, it was hard to turn a character known for being extreme in all senses into a family-friendly cartoon, so the project was reconfigured as a web series of 14 short flash animations, with the freedom to be as crude and violent as they liked. And number 1, a Stan Lee and Fantastic Four cameo was edited out after its original airing. Last year's Teen Titans Go to the Movies featured a knowing cameo from Marvel icon Stan Lee declaring, "I don't care if it's a DC movie, I love cameos." It was not, however, the first time that Stan's animated likeness had appeared in a DC project. The DCAU actually got there first, and they brought the Fantastic Four and Nick Fury along for the ride. They all showed up at the end of the Superman the Animated Series episode Apocalypse Now, Part 2, the story in which Superman faces off against and defeats Darkseid for the first time. The episode actually ends with a funeral for Metropolis cop Dan Turpin, a character originally created by comics legend Jack Kirby and, in the DCAU version, actually modeled after him. The funeral was designed as a tribute to Kirby, the original creator of this story's villain Darkseid and the New Gods, who had died in 1994, and featured characters and colleagues from his time working for both Marvel and for DC. As well as Lee and Marvel's first family, the mourners also included DC characters Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, and Orion, alongside the DCAU's Tim Andini, amongst other writers. It would be easy to miss this though, partly because the cameos were nothing more than a quick shot panning by a lot of people in suits, but more because they only appeared in the episode when it first aired in February 1998. Any further reruns and home media releases have them drawn over with a crowd of extras, although the original can be seen online. There is no official reason for the change, but it has been suggested that Marvel challenged the cameos on a copyright basis. It's really something special though, especially for anyone who saw the episode first time around. An amazing tribute to the King of Comics. Long may his reign continue.